You're listening to the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders, getting your nonprofit fully funded. This is the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. The original text technology was you dial a number and you put a word in your text message and they take $15 off of your thing. And that was the original concept. I don't like that at all.
It's nice that you got the dollars, but it's no way of building long-term relationships with any of these people.
Welcome back to another episode here at the Fundraising Masterminds Podcast. We are so excited that you have chosen to join us today. We have a great episode lined up for you. But before we get into it, my name is Jason Galicinski, and with me, my co-host, Jim Dempsey.
Hi, Jason.
And we are excited that you are here because this podcast is for nonprofit leaders. We have a great episode lined up for you. Today, we're going to be talking about a nonprofit's guide to online fundraising.
Yes.
And Jim, what I'm excited about is we kind of have this organized in terms of like when technology was brought on.
Yeah, I think it's a neat story.
So we're going to go back in time, back to the dinosaur ages when online giving first came on. You know, remember back in the days where you had to like connect to the internet with modems.
Internet. What's the internet again?
Do you remember the days when people didn't think the internet was going to be a real thing?
dial-up modems and yes, and the internet is a passing fad. It will never really sink in.
Yeah. Those are the same people that said there'll never be a personal computer in every home.
Exactly. Who would need something like that?
Yeah, so we're way past those days, right? And really the first piece of technology that was introduced on the internet, and this came along as soon as websites got popular, was a giving page. Right?
Right.
And that's really our first one, is a giving page.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a very rudimentary concept, right?
That's right.
How do you give on paper? Well, you have your name and address and phone number, and you put your credit card in, and you hit, you close it in an envelope and send it on, right? So let's just basically recreate that virtually. So we're going to have a form with your name and address and phone number, put in the amount you want, put in your credit card number or your check number, and off you go, right? And it goes into the internet land and gets deposited into your account. So that was really like the first piece of technology that came along.
I have to laugh that a lot of those online pages, all they did was tell you how to mail something in, which didn't do that much for you.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, even I'm talking about after those
times.
Oh,
okay, right.
Yeah, the very, very first giving page was send a check to you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right.
No, but seriously, the giving page is still around today.
Oh, it is.
I mean, even Crew has a giving page.
Yes.
Every organization has a giving page.
And they have improved, but to be honest, I don't think they've improved as well as they should.
Yeah, no. And I mean, they're still very rudimentary. They're still just basically a form.
And some are complicated and takes you 3 or 4 or 5 clicks to do something very simple.
Yeah, so obviously there's pros and cons to the giving page.
Yes.
And the biggest pro to a giving page is that it's customizable to your brand.
Right.
It's typically on your website. And you're not going to a third party. Even the ones that do go to third parties, a lot of times they're customizable or they're widgets or something, but they're on your website. So that's the biggest pro there. And also you get complete access to the data. So a lot of times on these things, you can control what you collect. So you can get your name, address, phone number, email. I know Crew has like a very customized thing where you can select specific designations, or you can select certain staff members or
mailings that you want to get or not get.
Right. So you can control a lot of that stuff, and that's the benefit.
Well, and Jason, of course, there's the cons. First of all, there's limited reach. People actually have to come to you. You don't go to them. Then there's technology. I mean, there's technology requirements. Frankly, this kind of technology technology is very clunky. There isn't a lot that's created out there. Very few have really streamlined or fine-tuned this process.
Yeah, they've gotten better over the years, but there's a couple of third-party. But I know like Crew, for example, they won't use third-party giving pages, right? They have their own giving page. And that's where back in the day, people were creating their own things. And so there was security issues with that. You know, people could hack into your servers, or there might be database issues or whatever. So there was just a lot complicated. There's a lot of complicated things about that.
And of course, when you do create your own, it provides additional security, but the hours that it takes when we submit a project to have something minor changed on the website, they do they add up how many hours it takes for a technician to work on these things. It's hundreds of thousands of hours, and you just think that's just one job. We've got hundreds of jobs that are just like this being submitted.
Well, nowadays, like the Give page is, if you're not a large organization like Crew, most people use something like Classy, or Donor Box, or there's a million out there.
When you've got 100 responses or 100 gifts a month, where Crew has 100 million.
The main problem with the Give page in general, in my opinion, is that it doesn't give you any immediate feedback like, especially if you're raising money for a specific thing. It doesn't tell you how much has been raised. It doesn't tell you how many people have given. It doesn't give you any kind of feedback. So it's just a static form. And you just kind of fill it out and you're done. And you don't even know if you got anything. I mean, a lot of times they send you an email as a confirmation, but there's been some that don't send you anything, and you're just kind of like, did it work?
Exactly.
And so they're just very old-fashioned, and but most nonprofits have them.
That's right.
I would say you probably need to have a giving page, but I would recommend that you do some research, because there's been some new ones, there's been some new platforms that have come on in the last 4 or 5 years that are much better user
than
experience
the old ones,
than the older clunky ones.
Versions, and of course, the last con is transaction fees, and it's tough to get around those transaction fees. It really is.
So that's the first one. The second piece of technology that kind of came shortly after that was this idea of like text to give. And text to give was more kind of coming on the backs of the mobile. Back in the early days, even before iPhone, right, when we had those flip phones with like keypads and stuff. Right. People wanted to be able to give quickly using their mobile device. So great idea. This is before apps. Right. So they created this thing called text to give, where it's like dial 236 to give $15 into our organization. And it sounds so great, but the problem is it's kind of tapping into that myth of the multiples.
Myth of the multiples.
So explain to us why that's a bad idea.
Oh, absolutely. Well, now $15 is a little bit different, but normally the principle is that a particular dollar amount, if you say, can everyone give the same amount of money? Typically, it is over-challenging some people, but in most cases, it's under-challenging people. And of course, the $15, if you had someone who had the capability of writing a check for $15,000, all you were doing is asking for $15, it really doesn't help you that much. So the myth of the multiples is that everybody giving the same amount. Well, and of course, there's just so many other downsides that we'll draw in a minute, but that was one of the big ones.
Yeah. Well, so apparently I'm not actually a big fan of text to give at all. I don't like it. I know a lot of people want to have it. And I suppose it's useful for some things. Like, I guess if you have 55,000 people in a stadium and you're doing a Billy Graham crusade and you want to just quickly collect $10 from somebody, in a stadium kind of environment, I suppose it could be helpful, but you're really getting into fundraising. Because I guess the pros of it is that it's quick. It's convenient. It really is more of an impulse thing. And you're going to have a wide reach to a lot of people, but to me, the cons outweigh the pros in this situation. Like the con of this is that you don't get any information about the person. You don't get their credit card information. You don't get their bank information. So you can't do reoccurring giving. You really don't get anything.
Well, it clearly fundraising and not development, because you can't build long-term relationships because you don't generally know who they are either. So,
it all goes through the phone company.
Right.
So when you text to give, it's like Sprint sends you a check.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like,
it's nice that you got the dollars, but it's no way of building long-term relationships with any of these people.
Yeah. So that to me, text to give is like one of the worst things.
Now, Jason, if I had to say though, if they were able to work out variable payments, so in other words, if I wanted to give 15, but if I wanted to give 15,000, would that make you feel a little bit better about it?
I think nowadays the technology has changed where text to give is more like they send you a text message with a link.
Yes.
And you click the link and it takes you to a giving page.
Yeah.
And so now you're kind of getting like the texting with the other things.
But see, I don't see that as text.
That's not
generally text giving.
Yeah.
All that is they're sending you a link to get on the internet.
So that's not really text to give. Yeah. The original text to give technology was you dial a number and you put a word in your text message and they take $15 off of your thing.
Right.
And that was the original concept. I don't like that at all for the reasons we mentioned.
Well, that makes sense. And of course there's other cons, Jason. There's all the fees that are involved in that.
The third thing that came along in the area of technology are more what I would refer to as like online tools. So this is where we got introduced to things like PayPal in the early days. Nowadays, it's more like Stripe or Square. But PayPal was really the first.
Yeah, that was one of the first.
That was the big one.
Yeah.
I remember the days where people would just say, I need a giving page. And so I'm just going to create a PayPal account and just have a PayPal give.
And I think about that now and it boggles my mind. It blows me away.
Right. And I remember working with a guy early on when we started Ministry Sync back in 2015. His name was George. And his big thing was trying to get ministries to stop using PayPal.
Oh, interesting.
The reason why wasn't because PayPal was a bad company or whatever. Although you could argue that they supported, certain things.
Not the right things.
His main reason for wanting to get people off of PayPal was the giving experience was terrible. Because you would have a big blue button. You couldn't control the branding of the button. It would say give on PayPal or donate, and then it would like take you off the website. It would take you to this like shopping cart looking thing. And then you'd have to like sign in. And if you didn't have a login, you'd have to create an account. And then, if you had a login, it was a little easier, but you still had to sign in. And then you had this like checkout experience and it felt very transactional.
It's a wonder that anybody actually gave, Jason. When I think
and
about
his
that
whole
now.
thing was he was actually trying to get people to go towards the giving page, but a giving page that looked really nice and branded, had a picture of the executive director that said, thank you so much. And, so he was really trying to move people.
So he was really ahead of his time.
Yeah. And he was really trying to help people more with the experience of things.
Which is critical. I mean, we know that now. Then we didn't really understand that.
Yeah. So I guess to be fair, the pros of PayPal type thing or a Stripe type checkout experience is that you're going to a third party that's supposedly trusted, right? A brand recognition. So, people would say, "Oh, it's Stripe. I trust Stripe with my credit card.
I'm used to that."
Or, "Oh, it's PayPal. I have a PayPal account. No problem." Today, it would be like Venmo
or Apple Pay or something.
Oh, I have that. And so people just use it because they're comfortable. Back in those days, there were all kinds of different processors like Authorize.net and ABC processing and so people would be like, I don't know, is this really?
It's a little sketchy.
Should I put my credit card? I remember my parents would be like, I don't know if it's safe to put my credit card in. So there was that era of not trusting
skepticism.
And that's where those online tools really tried to solve that problem by establishing trust. So it's like, well, we're not actually giving your credit card number to the nonprofit. You're giving it to PayPal, and they're not going to show it to anyone.
Supposedly.
So that's the pro. The con is, we already kind of mentioned, the biggest one is just high transaction fees and a poor experience. You know?
I was one of those skeptics too. In fact, I still don't have a PayPal account at this point in time. I just, they were one of the first ones, and I don't think I ever crossed the line to say that I really trusted them. But I've got an Apple Pay, I've got a Venmo, but
it's the same kind of concept.
It is same concept, but it's just I think the clunkiness of the initial experience turned me off on them. I don't know why.
Well, the fourth thing, and this is more coming into our modern age with Facebook and social media.
Right.
This is more tapping into Facebook, Instagram, even TikTok might even have this, is online social media platforms for fundraising. Right. So really this whole social fundraising thing started, I think, around the Giving Tuesday a couple of years ago when people were starting this Giving Tuesday thing, and they were posting everything on social media for this one day, and they're trying to get their thing to go viral.
Right.
And then Facebook decided, well, why don't we just allow people to make fundraisers on our platform?
Right.
And they really kind of hijacked in a way the Giving Tuesday thing. And they even have matching gifts, like where Facebook will match first $10 million given on Giving Tuesday or whatever. That's all kind of started with Facebook.
Right.
So anyways, the point being is that you can go onto Facebook or Instagram, and I think maybe even TikTok has this, but you can create a fundraiser directly on the social media platform.
Okay.
So the benefit, the pro, is that it's super easy.
Okay.
Right? Like you don't have to be an organization.
Yeah.
You can just be an individual, and you can just say, I want to raise money for X organization.
Right.
And I can just type in the name, put in how much I want to raise, and boom, you've got a widget, and you can share it with your friends.
Yeah.
Right. The downside to this is that it's all going through Facebook. It doesn't really help the organization do development at all.
It's just
because
fundraising
it's just
again.
like the text to give thing. They get a check from Facebook,
right?
And it takes like 3 months for Facebook to process. So can you imagine someone raises $10,000 for you, and 3 months later you get a check from Facebook? And of course, you think they just send you a check, right? No, they don't send you a check.
Wow.
They have to. You have to prove that you're the right person.
Man.
So you got to apply to get your money. And there's just all this craziness, right? So it's good for the end person who's on Facebook. It's really easy for an average person to just create a fundraiser, and it makes it feel like, oh, I'm doing something good.
Yeah.
But it's really hard on the nonprofit to actually get the money.
On the recipient.
Yeah. And they have no idea who gave the money. It takes forever to get the money, and it's kind of hard for them. Right. In that sense.
Right. Wow. So if you were in a hurry then trying to do a project or a program or something to save someone's life, it may be too late by the time you get the money then, huh?
For sure.
Yeah. Wow. That's
sad. That's what I want to get into. The next two things are more getting into the crowdfunding and the peer-to-peer stuff.
Yeah, I can't wait to.
And that's where that's a lot better, because it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
It's almost like combining all these technologies together and kind of taking the best of everything.
Yeah. So, because in theory, Jason, in this last element, you are really recruiting, and actually they're doing it on their own. You're recruiting a whole bunch of people in fundraising, development people, technically in that sense.
In a way, the Facebook fundraiser is kind of like peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
It is peer-to-peer in the sense that you're getting your peers to raise funds for you. But Facebook kind of hijacked how you get the funds, and they control everything, and you have no idea who gave to you.
Well, they defeated the whole purpose of, that moved it from potentially being development to being fundraising, and that
it is fundraising. That's why they say start a fundraiser.
Wow.
It's really totally fundraising. So it's not the best thing.
Yeah.
So we have 3 more things, and this is where we're getting into the stuff that I really am a lot more excited about.
Okay.
But before we get into these things, if you found any of this stuff to be helpful, just let us know in the comments below, or give us a thumbs up if you're watching us on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and click that little notification bell, because we do weekly episodes for nonprofit leaders.
Yep.
And if you are a development director, an executive director, a board member, or a volunteer that's involved in leadership for a nonprofit, then this podcast is for you.
Yeah.
I think you're going to learn a lot as you come on each week, and we cover all kinds of topics, leadership, fundraising strategies, and stuff like this. So it's really...
And many of them are content like this. This is new cutting edge information that is helpful for you.
Let's get back into the final 3.
Okay.
And
Sounds
this is the stuff that I'm excited about personally. I'm very excited about crowdfunding. I'm excited about peer-to-peer.
Okay.
And I'm also excited about digital assets.
All right.
And these are the 3 that I feel like when you talk about seriously raising funds online,
this is going to do it, huh?
And doing donor development.
Right.
You know, so this is
got the best of all
merger
worlds.
of, you know, we want to collect people's information. We want to build relationships, like all the stuff that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But we also want to raise money and have a good experience.
And utilize technology, huh?
This is crowdfunding, peer-to-peer, and digital assets.
Nice.
So let's talk about number 5, which is crowdfunding.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in then. I'm excited as well too. Number 5 is crowdfunding. How about telling our audience what crowdfunding is, Jason?
Yeah, well, crowdfunding is when you get a bunch of people in a room
and you hit them up for money. Yes, you lock the doors until they give you money.
No,
that's my old school.
That's what everyone thinks.
That's how I did a dinner in the old days.
Well, let me ask you a question, Jim.
So I was doing crowdfunding in the 80s.
Well, Jim, have you heard of the website called Kickstarter?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So what does Kickstarter typically try to do? What do you think of it when you think of Kickstarter?
Well, I think of starting things up. I mean, I think
businesses?
For sure. Businesses want to, they've got a product and they need
or they have an idea.
Seed fund, an idea, and they have seed funding that helps them build the product and get it out to the masses.
So what are the common factors, you know, when you go to like a Kickstarter, you typically see like an image of the idea. They're like pitching it. Right. You typically see a list of people who have given.
Right.
You typically see a meter.
Right.
And a lot of times that meter is in real time.
Yeah. It's letting us know how much has been raised or committed or whatever.
This was the early days of what we refer to as crowdfunding.
Okay.
Crowdfunding is essentially a giving page. But it's almost like the page before the page.
Okay.
You know, like the original giving page was like the donation form. Right. This is like the landing page before the giving form.
Okay.
You know, so it's like taking you to a landing page where it's explaining to you, this is what the idea is. This is who's given. Look at all the cool stuff that's happening. There's updates and there's things happening. So it's almost like a little Facebook social media-ish type thing. And you get like kind of some feedback on like what's going on. So if you go to a Kickstarter and it's like, you're like, oh, check out this Kickstarter. It's this great new idea of whatever. And you go to it and it's like 0% raise and there's like no one there and it's all crickets. Then you're probably not going to give anything. You're going to be like, oh, I don't want to be the first guy. But if you go to something that's like a really cool idea and you see there's like 1 million people that have contributed and like things are moving and they're giving lots of updates, so that builds confidence.
Everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon.
So that's what crowdfunding is.
Got it.
Essentially just a visual way to be able to see kind of like what's going on. There really are a lot of great benefits here.
Probably more pros than cons, huh?
Yeah, there's a lot more pros than cons. I guess I'll start with the cons with this one.
All right.
So the cons are that it might feel like it's harder to set up because you're setting up a specific campaign per project. So it might, like a giving page, it's like you just have it forever. But with crowdfunding, you have to think about it per project. So each time you do a project, like if you want to raise money for a new ultrasound or you want to get a mobile unit or you want to have a building campaign or whatever, you got to set up a crowdfunding page for each thing. And of course, you've got to market it, right? So you might have to make a video about it. You might have to explain what it is, but all stuff that you should be doing anyways. But that's, I guess I'll put that as a con in the sense that it might take you a little bit longer to set up these projects.
So does that make it time intensive at all or not?
Yeah. I mean, it could be a little bit more. It's more time consuming than just having a giving page. Because having a giving page is a one-time thing and you're done.
But it's not that complicated.
No.
Just takes a little work. And I imagine once you get used to it, it gets easier and easier each time.
I mean, I can get one up and running in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
So it's really not that hard. You just have to know how to do it and you have to be familiar with the platform and stuff like that. But there are some platforms, like I know Kickstarter, for example, you know, we're not endorsing Kickstarter. I'm just using it as an example. But I know that some platforms, they have kind of like this, if we don't hit your goal, then we reimburse all the money and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
wow.
You have to be careful with which platform you get and the settings that you set up for.
Oh, and you could technically use Kickstarter for fundraising. I mean, for nonprofit. Oh, okay.
I don't know if you can or not.
Okay.
But I know that there's other platforms out there that are specific for Fundeasy.
Kickstarter is just an example.
Yeah.
Of a platform.
Well, like Classy is one that does one.
Okay. Yeah.
Fundeasy is another one that has a product for crowdfunding.
Okay. Give us an example, like a Fundeasy. Give me an example of what something like that would look like.
Yeah,
what would the page look like?
One of my favorite platforms is Fundeasy.
Okay.
Fundeasy.com. They have a product called Crowdfunding.
Okay. So it's made easy for you.
And it's actually free.
Okay.
So it's one of their free introductory products. So if you're wanting to get into crowdfunding and you're looking for just a page where you can set up a fund meter and just promote a certain kind of project with a goal, you can go to fundeasy.com. You can create a free account and you can select the product crowdfunding. And then you just fill out a simple form where you put in your title, your description, your all the information about it, and boom, you've got yourself a crowdfunding page.
So, Jason, essentially, that would be your platform, like you were talking Kickstarter and other platforms.
Yeah.
So, Fundeasy is the platform that you would use for your crowdfunding project. Wow, that sounds. I mean, a free platform. I can't. Give me more. Yeah. So I love that.
It's great for year-end giving. It's great for Giving Tuesday. It's great for if you just have a really quick project that you just have a specific goal, like I need to raise $50,000 for this.
Yes.
You know, and you want to have real-time feedback and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's where crowdfunding really comes into play. Okay. So check out Fundeasy for that. Okay. Put a QR code on the screen for crowdfunding.
Now, what would be the next one? I've got on here peer-to-peer. Can you unpack peer-to-peer for me? Because, I mean, it sounds kind of, it's enticing. Tell me about it.
So number 6 is called peer-to-peer fundraising.
Okay.
And this is, I think, one of the most powerful ways that you can raise money online today.
Okay. You piqued my interest.
Yeah. This is one of the best ways. I mean, their organizations are raising $100,000, $200,000.
Wow.
Some have raised $300,000 using peer-to-peer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And what it is it's essentially, a lot of times it's event based.
Okay.
Right. So like imagine you're putting on an event.
Okay.
Like a
Perfect Vision dinner?
No, like an event that has sponsors.
Okay.
So
got it. A walkathon, jogathon, something like that.
Right.
Okay.
So imagine that you're doing like a marathon. Right. Like a 5K run.
Okay.
And so I'm participating in this 5K run. Right. And I'm doing this marathon to benefit cancer,
right?
To solve cancer, or I'm doing it to rescue babies,
or human trafficking,
right? So you're doing this event, and I'm participating. Now you might have 1,000 people, that participate in this a-thon, and so each person that registers to attend this event, and a lot of times it's free, but there could be a fee, but it doesn't really matter. They register to attend, and they automatically get a fundraising page, in their name, whether they want it or not. It's there,
right.
In the old days, before online stuff, it would be like they would get sent in the mail a pledge form,
right? And
you remember those days?
Sure, go around to your neighbors and friends, and
a lot of times where this came from is, in the old days before the internet, you would register to an a-thon, and then the organization would send you a pledge form. And they'd say, okay, go around door to door, talk to your family, and try to get people to sponsor you. So you would go around and you'd say, hey, Joe, I'm doing this 5K run to help raise
sign
money.
This piece of paper and tell me how much.
Would you write your name and address and how much you will sponsor me for? And, so, okay. And then people would do it, right? And then what would happen is you'd show up at the marathon and you'd hand in your
form,
piece of paper, and it would have all this like chicken scratch written out of names, address, phone number, and how much, right?
And then trying to read Mr. Jones's signature and all that kind of stuff.
And then the problem though is that the organization would have all this paper, like hundreds and hundreds of pieces of paper with all these people who promised to give, but they didn't actually have the money. I mean, some people would give you the money, or sometimes they would require money up front, but a lot of times they wouldn't have the money. So the organization would spend months and months and months
Wow.
trying to send letters,
Sure.
trying to collect. And, how many people do you think?
Oh, the percentage of fulfillment was probably in the 20s.
Yeah, it was
right.
pretty low.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem back in the old days was that, it was a great idea, but, like you said, it's very expensive on the back end to actually get that fulfilled.
Right.
So peer-to-peer fundraising really flipped everything around. It was a game changer.
Wow.
Between 2010 and 2012 is when peer-to-peer.
So just 10 years ago. I mean, really? Okay.
And it was really a game changer for this kind of event because essentially what happens is people would register online to attend the event.
Yep.
They would immediately be given a online fundraising page.
Okay.
Instead of a form.
Yeah.
And then they were told, hey, go, the fundraising page would have a goal.
Right.
So they say, okay, each person is going to, you can set your goal yourself or the organization could set the goal.
Yeah.
But instead of going out and asking people, to put their, promise on a piece of paper, they would post the page on their social media or they'd send an email or whatever. They talk to a person and they'd say, hey, would you mind sponsoring me? Same thing.
Yeah.
But instead of them writing down a promise, they would just go online and they click sponsor.
Right.
And then they would just fill out the form, which would include credit card or bank information. And then the money would be transacted right there and sent to the nonprofit.
Right.
So the game changer is that instead of having $100,000 of promises that you'd have to follow up on, you now have $100,000 in the bank before the event's actually done.
That's huge.
So in some circles, peer-to-peer has done really well.
Wow.
Because of that peer pressure, right?
Yeah.
And so I actually use it for mission trips.
Okay.
I'm taking a team of people
for your Heart of Zambia.
Yeah. I'm taking a team of people of 10 people on a mission trip, and each person needs to raise their own support to go on the mission trip. So we're raising $5,000 a person. Well, guess what I do? I create a peer-to-peer campaign
for each of the people
because the event is the mission trip.
Right.
So all the people who are going on the mission trip are their participants.
Yeah.
Each participant gets its own page.
Okay.
And each person has their own goal for raising their own support. Now they go out, they write a fundraising letter or whatever, or an email, and they say, hey, I'm going on a mission trip. Would you support me? And they, put a link to their specific page, right? So they're not going to the organization's page. They're going to that specific person's page. But all the money is being raised for the organization.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's fantastic. Like, it's a very, very clean way to raise a lot of money online, and I highly recommend it.
Wow. Jason, don't beat around the bush. Tell us how you feel about peer-to-peer.
I really like it. But
I can tell.
One of the best platforms, I think, for peer-to-peer, it has a product called Peer-to-Peer.
Okay.
And it's by Fundeezy.
It's Fundeezy again. Okay.
Yeah. Now, this one isn't free. You do have to pay for this one.
Okay. And what are we talking about, Jason, on cost on something like that? Is it pretty minimal?
I don't even know.
Yeah,
I think it's like Jason, $50 a month or something.
Oh, okay.
It's not very much. There's other kinds of peer-to-peer type things out there. Like someone might be thinking, well, isn't that similar to GoFundMe?
Okay.
Well, the difference between GoFundMe and Fundeezy, for example, is GoFundMe is centered around the individual.
Okay.
Versus Fundeezy is really centered around the nonprofit.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Got it.
So, for example, let's say that I got into a car accident.
Right. And you had medical expenses. You didn't have insurance.
Yeah, right. And I broke my leg and I need to raise $50,000.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not a nonprofit.
Right.
I'm not putting on an event or anything like that. So I could set up a GoFundMe page as an individual.
Okay.
But then when people give to that, they're not getting a tax.
It's not tax deductible. Yeah. Right. It makes sense.
So they're just giving me money personally.
Yeah.
So that's totally different.
Yeah.
What we're talking about here is peer-to-peer for nonprofits.
Okay.
Which is typically centered around an event or some kind of thing that is happening. It could be a mission trip. It could even be a virtual event.
Right.
But there's some kind of end point.
Right.
And that's really what makes it work, is that there's a beginning and there's an end.
Yeah.
So there's a deadline.
Right.
Which is what makes this all work.
Yeah.
There's like, this is only for this certain amount of time.
Right. Okay.
And then you get all these people that are coming on board.
Yep.
And they're all kind of up against the clock.
Right.
We have 10 days left to hit our goal.
Okay.
We have 5 days left to hit our goal.
Right.
And that combination of scarcity of time and the goal and being able to see everything in real time.
Yeah.
That's what makes it all work.
That's great. I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Number 7. This is the last one. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, the last one is digital assets.
Okay.
And this is actually, I kind of coming off of what you said a few times, that most people have their wealth in assets.
Oh, yeah. Right.
You remember saying that a few times?
Oh, yes, exactly. 95% of people's wealth is in their assets.
Right. And nowadays, and this is more of a current thing with a lot of people are into stocks and cryptocurrency.
Oh, right.
And so a lot of people have their wealth stored in digital assets.
Right.
And digital assets are kind of more the new thing.
Yes, exactly.
Right? There's certainly a lot of people that have their assets in, older assets like real estate and stuff like that.
Sure.
But we're talking about online giving, right?
Online assets. Yeah.
You can't give online your house,
right?
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So we're talking about online giving.
Okay.
And so I'm saying the seventh thing that has really become very popular, and I would highly recommend that every nonprofit have this to some degree, is the ability to give stocks online and the ability to give cryptocurrency online.
Okay.
And that's really, really critical because, if you're at an event and, someone says, I would love to give $1,000, but I don't have $1,000 in my bank account, but I've got $1,000 of Apple stock.
Right.
Well, how do I give $1,000 of Apple stock? Well, if you have no idea, or if it's a really complicated, like, well, give it to our broker and we'll figure it out, then, it just doesn't make it easy for the giver.
Right. Yeah.
So there are a couple platforms, and again, they are not paying us or endorsing us to say these things.
Right.
But I would recommend that you look into stockdonator.com.
Okay.
Is a really easy, simple, like if you don't know how to set up online stock donation receiving platform, stockdonator.com, you can be set up in like 10 minutes.
Wow.
It's really easy.
Okay.
I did it for Reaching the Heart of Zambia. Worked really well.
All right.
And the giving experience is fairly nice.
Okay.
You can just go on, you click a button that says donate stock. You just go through a couple of steps and boom.
Okay.
They take care of everything for you.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have a broker or do anything like that.
Because the tax advantages, if you go to a broker and sell the stock, then make a donation, you're taxed heavily. But if you give it the stock directly to the nonprofit organization, you avoid those capital gains taxes.
Yeah.
Wow. That's great.
Yeah. So it's really an advantage to the donor.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
It's the same with cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Right. Let's say you have someone who they maybe don't have $10,000 in their bank account, but they've got $10,000 of Bitcoin,
right,
or Ethereum, or pick your favorite crypto. Right. Wouldn't it be great if you could just accept that and then have it be automatically converted, just like stocks, right? Just because you accept a stock donation doesn't mean that you have to, trade and do all this stuff, right? There's the stockdonator.com takes care of all that for you.
Right.
So there's a website. Again, these aren't, I'm not promoting them.
We're not endorsing
these, but an easy one, just like stockdonator.com, is called BitPay.
Okay.
Right. BitPay is a simple, you can be set up in 10 minutes or less. It's kind of like the PayPal for crypto.
Currency.
And what it does is it just allows you to be able to accept any kind of cryptocurrency, and then they take care of exchanging it. So you get the dollars, just like the stocks.
Yeah. Now, are there fees for those transactions?
Of course.
I'm assuming, yeah,
of course. All these platforms. And, BitPay or Stock Donator, there's plenty.
There's fees involved in it, but it's worth it because it's the convenience of being able to do it.
Well, they have platform fees and stuff like that. And there's do your own research. There's lots of them. I just mentioned the ones that are the simplest just to get you started. But I'm sure if you typed in Google BitPay versus, you're going to get a whole list of things.
Of
or if you typed in Stock Donator versus, you might get a bunch of options. But just wanted to give you something to think about.
Well, Jason, it seems to me that the nonprofit organization that offers these options are going to have an advantage over the ones that don't, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, if you go to reachingtheheartofzambia.org/give, you're going to land on my giving page, and you're going to see that I have 3 options. I have 3 buttons. I have give cash or credit card. I have give stocks, and I have give crypto. Those are my 3 options. And they go to the 3 different platforms that I use. Right. And so it's just set up that way. And
it's easy, it's simple to do.
So if you're running a vision dinner, or you're doing a year-end campaign or whatever, and you are telling people to go to your website to give, and you only have the option of a credit card, you're very limiting. You're very much limiting your choices.
Well, clearly more options is better. I mean, that just is proven. It's a proven fact. Yeah. Jason, out of these 7, if you had to pick these 7, what would you say is your favorite?
Well, as you could probably tell by my mannerisms, you probably thought, well, he's pretty excited about peer-to-peer, so we should just drop everything and do peer-to-peer.
I couldn't tell that at all.
No. What I'm excited about with peer-to-peer is that it's raised the most money.
Right.
And it gets a lot of people engaged.
Okay.
But actually, to a nonprofit leader, I would say it really depends on what you're trying to do.
Okay.
But just right off the bat, I would say for sure you need to have an online giving form.
Yeah.
Just the old school, straight up online giving form. But I would recommend looking into a modern version of those.
Okay.
But that typically is focused on credit card transactions and bank account transactions.
Okay.
I'd also highly recommend that you have the stock one, and then also the crypto one.
Okay.
The other ones are more based on campaigns or events.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't need them.
Yeah.
But it just depends on what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So
sure.
So for example, you have those 3 right off the bat. But then you might have a year-end campaign where it might make more sense to use crowdfunding for that so that you get the advantage of the social component. Right. Or you might have an event like a Walk for Life or a bike-a-thon where you want to take advantage of the social components of having everyone contributing.
Sure.
So I wouldn't say that peer-to-peer would replace your giving website, because it doesn't make sense for that. Peer-to-peer is really geared towards events.
Right.
Crowdfunding is more geared towards campaigns. Okay. Right. But the main thing is that they have a start and an end time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right?
Yeah.
If you just want to have a giving platform, then use a giving platform that doesn't have a start and end.
Yeah.
Right. So it really just depends. I would stay away from text to give.
Okay.
I would stay away from the social media giving platforms. And I'd also stay away from things like PayPal and Apple Pay and all that third-party stuff that's just generic.
Right.
I would stay away from that.
Through somebody else.
So the main reason is because you're not going to get the contact information, so you're not going to be able to do anything with it. You're just going to get a check from them. So the benefit of the other platforms is that you're at least going to be collecting information that you can start using for development.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I think like so many things we've talked about, it really comes down to different options for people. One size fits all. There's no one size fits all giving opportunity. Some of the older generation may favor more of the form type of things. The younger generation may be going more towards electronic. But it's not just we're only offering one thing and you have to abide by what we offer. I think it just helps any nonprofit organization to have multiple options and multiple opportunities.
Yep. So again, to wrap that up, the 7 different giving options that are out there are just plain old the giving form.
Right.
I definitely recommend that you have that. The online giving tools, which are like PayPal and stuff like that.
Right.
Don't recommend those very much. Text to give, don't recommend that too much, but it's still there. Social media fundraisers. It's there, but I don't recommend it. Crowdfunding. It's there. Use it for campaigns that have start and end dates. Year-end, Giving Tuesday, a mom's retreat or a mission trip or anything that has a start and end time.
Right.
The benefit is that you get that real-time feedback.
Right.
The peer-to-peer stuff is more focused on events.
Right.
So you got a Walk for Life or a walk-a-thon or any kind of a thon, a golf-a-thon. That's typically where you have people raising money for other people. Right.
Okay.
Those are really great. Again, there needs to be a start time and an end time.
Right.
But that's where you would use that. So that's more of a tool in your toolbox. Right. And then we're moving into digital assets like stock donations and crypto donations. Those are just things that you should just have.
Right. They're
just
conveniences.
Like the giving page. So those are the 7 different things that are being used today for online giving.
Yeah, I love it. Jason, thank you. This is this has been very, very enlightening. Even I heard a few things today that were new to me.
Yeah.
So hopefully they were beneficial to our audience today.
This wouldn't be the #1 podcast for nonprofit leaders if it weren't for people like you. So thank you for joining us today. Let us know in the comments which fundraising system you like to use, and maybe if you could recommend some products. I know I mentioned a couple. We threw a few out there. Again, not endorsing any of them, but if there's some that you use that you really like, help each other out. Write them in the comments below. Let us know which platforms you use and for different things that you do. I'd love to hear about them and love to hear what you're using. So do that for sure. And also while you're there, be sure to subscribe to the Fundraising Masterminds podcast. Jim, did you know that over 80% of the people who listen to this podcast are not subscribed?
Yeah, see, that always blows me away. There's people that come in and go out and don't subscribe. That
well, you're missing out on all the great content.
They're not getting reminded. They're not sharing it with their friends. It's just the ones who do subscribe just rave over what they're getting.
So take the extra 2 seconds right now and click that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the little notification bell so that you get notified. Well, Jim, any last words that you want to say about online fundraising?
Yeah. Well, Jason, I've always been about options. I think giving people as many options as you can only helps you. It really makes it as convenient as possible, and making it easy for people to give. You can't lose.
Yeah, I know that a lot of these options might seem overwhelming to you. Really, what we want to focus on is on development, right, Jim?
Right.
We want to focus on building relationships with people. So it's really important
fundraising.
That out of these 7 things, that you select the things that are going to help you build relationships with people. Right. And I really think that the giving page helps you build relationships because you got their data. Peer-to-peer crowdfunding, you get their data. The digital asset thing, you get their data. Text to give, social media, and the giving tools, you don't really get their information. So I'd stay away from those things. They don't really help you understand who the people are that are giving to you. They might be great for raising money.
Right.
But if you can't build that relationship, it's not going to help you in the long run.
Not useful.
So that's what I would say in the final.
Good. Thanks, Jason.
So, thank you again for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Take care.